What's going on, Fitted Culture? I'm Adrian Barone. We got a huge transformation here for y'all today. We're gonna be giving my man Mikey a 8 with the taper fade. But before we get started, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button, as our goal is to hit 100K subscribers. And if we hit it, I pledge to shave my brother's hair completely bald.
Nah, chill. Oh, I said I wasn't gonna do that.
Don't worry about it, he's gonna do it. With that said, let's jump right into this tutorial. Alright guys, like we said in the intro, smash that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe, as I am looking forward to shaving my brother's hair bald as soon as we hit the 100K subscribers. He never agreed to it, but we'll see, we're still gonna do it. Now to start this tutorial, what I did is I was kind of cutting in the middle of the hair as I was pulling it up because his curls were very thick, and I combed it, and now I'm actually running my guard through the scalp. Just dusting them off, blowing everything off before we get started. Now with my number 2 lever open, we're just gonna clean where we're actually gonna come in and set up our guidelines. In the back, make sure you don't pass the occipital bone. Starting at that temple peak area, we're gonna come down with our trimmers to set up our first guideline. And this is how I set up my tapers, kind of imagining that line still coming down, and that's where I set up in the back. And follow that all around on the other side. Now with no guard, lever open, we're gonna come up about half an inch to an inch, and we're gonna set our second guideline. And make sure you're flicking up as you get to the top of that. That way it's very soft and it's easy to fade out when we come back down. Now with my number 1 guard, lever still open, take that up about another half inch or so. And again, make sure you're flicking up as you get to the top. Stay easy with these guidelines, guys. Don't dig them in, there's no need to. It'll be a lot easier when you come back and take them out. Now with my number 2 guard lever still open, we're going to continue the process. And this is basically what I do. As I'm setting up these initial guidelines, my lever stays open, it stays in that position. The only thing that changes is the guards. Now with my number 3, we're going to continue the cleanup process. This number 3 should not leave any guideline. This is how you know if you're digging it in. If this number 3 is leaving something very harsh, it's because you're digging it in. And lastly, my number 4 lever still open. We're just gonna finish blending in all the way to the top, and this should blend in all the way up to that number 8. Again, right here, just make sure you don't pass the occipital bone. Try not to take it too high in the back. We're pretty much done with the setup. Right here we got our trimmer line, which is our first one, our second one with the lever open, and our third with the number 1 guard lever open. We're gonna start with that top one and work our way down. With our number 1.5 guard, we're gonna close the lever just slightly, putting it in that 3/4 position. It's somewhere in between fully open and halfway. Using mostly just the corners of the clipper, we're gonna attack that top line. You can already tell right here in the middle of the back, it's very coarse, and this is probably somewhere where I'm gonna have to come back and do extra touch-up work. Really get familiar with those corners of the clipper, guys. It's gonna help you so much. Now with my half guard lever in that same 3/4 position, we're gonna attack the second line coming down. And again, using mostly just the corners of the clipper. And this is gonna leave a faint to mid line on top, but do not take this half guard any higher than that, as we are gonna come back with the one guard and clean up anything that this half guard created. And if your half guard did not take away that second guy line, it's probably because you were digging it in a little too much. Again, just be easy with your wrist and let the clippers do the work. Now with my number one guard lever in that same 3/4 position, we're gonna attack that small line that half guard created. This process is fairly simple. It's basically lever open as we set up, coming up, and then lever 3/4 as we come back down. As you can see, like I said, it still is a little thick in that centerpiece, but just leave it, finish setting up. We'll come back and do any touch-up work at the end. Now for the last line, I do a 3-step process: lever fully closed, lever halfway, and then lever fully open. Taking each of those notches up just slightly, and again using just the corners. Now I'm putting it halfway and taking that up just a bit. And as you can see, I even have my left hand stretching the skin just a little bit, just to help me get in there better with the corners. Now lever fully open and just finish the process. And keep in mind, one thing I'm constantly doing is brushing off the hair. Now if you've been watching our work, you know we like to break this last step up into smaller steps. So as for the back side of the taper, I even break that down into 2 sides. I'm working here on just the left side of the taper. I do my 3-step process and then I move on to the right side. Just because this last line is so tedious, I like to give it as much attention to detail as possible. Now for the last side, again lever closed, take that up just a bit. Now lever halfway. And finally fully open. Now with my half guard, I usually start in that lever fully open. I just clean up any dark spots that I've seen. This is all comes down to touch up, and this is gonna vary from client to client and literally from each side of his head. Like I mentioned earlier, that middle part was very dark, so here I'm just using the corners and picking it out, and the sides didn't have too much work. Using my trimmers now to start cleaning up around the ear. I highly recommend these Babyliss trimmers, guys. If y'all haven't checked them out, the link is in the description down below if y'all want to check them out. They're super powerful for being wireless trimmers. And me personally, I'm not a huge fan of wireless clippers, but this one really did it for me. I don't know, what do y'all think though? Do y'all usually use wireless clippers in the barbershop? As you can see, my last 2 haircuts were with the 5-star corded wall, and that's usually what I use. Now turning my trimmers around just to get a little bit closer to the scalp, And this is just going to help me transition from the shaver into the fade. As you can see, just by even turning the trimmers around, it already looks bald. Just be careful that your clippers are not overly zero gapped, as it will scratch your client. As I'm cleaning up the rest of the hair, I'm leaving that faint line towards the top, just so we know how high up to take the shaver. You can see the faint lines visible right here. And that's where we're going to take our shaver up to. Now using Spritz hairspray, and spray that all along his edge up line, comb it down, and then blow dry it just so we can freeze all that hair down. And it's going to be a lot sharper when we come back and line it up. Starting in the middle and work your way up to the sides. I usually always use my electric shaver on the top of the mustache, as it does get a lot closer. Again, even with the chin hair, starting in the middle and work your way up to the sides. Now using my electric shaver just to get that much closer, and using the back of my hand so I can feel the direction that the grain is going in, just so I can make sure I'm shaving against the grain. A little bit of shave gel to make sure we don't irritate the skin. Make sure you keep your blade at a 45-degree angle and you should have no problem shaving, guys. As you can see, I'm still using my finger to stretch the skin. Now using my thumb to stretch the skin. Almost every time you're gonna shave, make sure you're stretching the skin. It's gonna help you shave a lot more smoother. Even here I'm still stretching his skin. Look how I have his nose in a funny position, and on top of that I'm asking him to pull his lip in to create even more of a stretch. Here running some matte pomade into his hair just to give it a little bit of texture. We're going to top that off with the semi-permanent hair dye. The link is in the description to this gun as well if y'all want to check it out. And I do dilute my hair dye with water for those who've asked. Here's the before in case y'all forgot. My man looking like Ab-Soul. And boom, here's the after. 8 with the taper fader, guys. Let me know what y'all think of this process down below. I hope y'all find it very useful. And as usual, let us know down in the comments below what you would like for us to do next. But more than anything, thank y'all for tuning in. We appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all next time, guys. Peace.